There's a company called Bus Patrol, and this is meant to keep children safe. We know the whole thing. And this is on school buses. And maybe this had noble intentions from the get-go, maybe. But either way, these are AI-powered cameras in tens of thousands of school buses around the US, which I know for many of you is terrifying as a concept, to put experimental technology and have questionable privacy practices collecting all, not just adult data, but kids' data, and they don't have a choice. They probably have to get to school. We can get into all those problems, but that's almost completely superseded by what's going on here, which is covered by 404. Because now they're turning all of those cameras into automatic license plate readers, also called ALPRs, capturing the location of every vehicle the buses drive past, giving that data to law enforcement. Isn't that unbelievable? So this is actually transforming school buses into roaming surveillance vehicles, taking a technology that was originally designed to issue tickets to people illegally passing stop buses and using it for much wider and general law enforcement, likely without a warrant. That's mostly quoting from 404. Now, there are leaked Bus Patrol documents. These are leaked internal documents from the company themselves, saying that internally they acknowledge how controversial the plan is to collect and share this data, pointing specifically to concerns about ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. But the company emphasizes the likely success of selling the angle of protecting children, which means internally they literally know that they can just spout this keep the children safe nonsense, and then people won't care. Now, they have not responded to requests for comment. I think something that is worth flagging, it's always important to see who is funding what and why. The incentives align a certain way, pretty much according to the source with knowledge of the plans. After GI Partners, an investment firm, invested $300 million into Bus Patrol, it has been pushing the company to find these alternative revenue streams. So besides just how egregious this story is, I think nobody should be okay with this. Like, even if you're okay with the AI technology being used on kids, which is untested, which has questionable privacy practices, the reality is we see this just now instantly become a surveillance tool that impacts everybody. And that was never the original intention of this. We see this pattern all the time with these tools where they might start with a good purpose, but because there's no regulation around this stuff, because anybody can just go ahead and change its purpose day two, we see this happen constantly with surveillance technology, and it's how we see the scope constantly increase. Now, another takeaway I have for this is overall just funding and thinking about incentives. This is something that I'm always looking for when I'm picking the tools I use personally in my life, but I think it almost always boils down to what the overall incentives are for a company. When something has its own subscription model, when there aren't really that many or any third-party investors, when they are completely dedicated to keeping you a bit safer online, that is typically where we get a sweet spot and where we see these companies that exist for over a decade, and they are consistently committed to the user. What we've seen in the past is services that magically come up out of nowhere. They have VC funding, and then they make a big splash out of nowhere, it seems, and then people get really excited for it, and then they rug pull all their users because they change something, or because they change the CEO, or because they literally just disappear because it was never a sustainable business model and the investors didn't get what they wanted out of it, or they completely shift direction because investors want to get their money back. So I'm not completely anti-VC per se. I just am quite skeptical of when something has VC funding because it's a lot harder, I think, to stick to those core values. And I think when it comes to technology, it's meant to keep children safe. I don't know why needing to make money out of something and making it profitable should ever be more important than the overall mission of keeping children safer. So those are my thoughts on that. I would love to hear what you think. It's quite a nasty story.